Hello, my name is Randi Meredith. I am a councilwoman for the town of Milton and the chair of the Milton Traffic Calming Advisory Ad Hoc Committee. Today, I will be presenting some results from our 2021 survey, along with an overview of our advisory report. Let me share my screen. Okay, so the Milton Traffic Calming Advisory Ad Hoc Committee Advisory Report 2021. Where is this coming from? The Milton Traffic Calming Advisory Ad Hoc Committee was established by Resolution 2021-003 in December of 2020 by the Town Council to identify challenges and hazards within the town's transportation system and to recommend possible solutions. We held 11 public meetings, conducted a town-wide traffic survey, and held 8 community walk audits. The TCC members have put in countless hours of research, data collection, data organization, and public outreach over the last 8 months. So we distributed 1,850 surveys in the mail and by dropping them off at churches, schools, and local businesses. We sent them to property owners and also rental addressees. The surveys were collected by mail, email, dropped off at town hall, and hand delivered to committee members. We had a return rate of 11%. The first question we asked people on our survey was, how do you travel around town? Respondents were allowed to circle as many options as they wanted, and we also had a write-in category. Of the people who answered this question, 99% said that they use an automobile, 84% walk, 58% use a bicycle, 36% walk around town with their dog. Our next question was actually a series of 12 questions, and we asked people to rate their traffic-related concerns. We used a semantic differential, and that's a type of rating scale designed to measure people's emotional attitude toward a topic. Most of them were favorable for the questions we were asking. There were only 2 that garnered an unfavorable response, and that was by a very slim margin. Our next question was we asked people to select from a list their 3 biggest concerns. Speeding ranked as the highest concern, followed by dangerous traffic patterns, including intersections, then pedestrian access and safety, then biking access and safety, followed closely by commercial traffic. Our next question was for write-in comments. We received 412 write-in comments on specific traffic concerns. Each of the write-in comments were coded by specific concern and then tallied. Some comments included more than one concern, and so they are listed more than once in the comments section at the end of the report. For example, one comment was, the truck traffic and speed on Federal Street is harming the historical character of the town. This comment was categorized under trucks and also under speed. So from the traffic survey results, we then identified 8 zones in which to focus our efforts. We conducted walk audits in these zones. A walk audit is an assessment of the pedestrian safety, accessibility, and comfort of a particular area. The committee utilized AARP's walk audit toolkit. So we had 8 walk audits. They were noticed in the Cape Gazette and on the town's website. Each walk audit was at least an hour long, with a few lasting 2.5 hours. We had over 50 participants. Page 59 of the report includes the comprehensive list of issues identified on the walk audits and includes the committee's recommendation for addressing each. Okay, so when did crossing the street become such a chore? Someone wrote this, I would say sarcastically, on their survey, but it got me thinking, when did it get so hard to cross the street? We looked at Milton's population. It was pretty consistent from 1960 to until 2000, but the population has doubled since the year 2000. In addition, the population of Delaware as a whole has increased by 10% just over the last 10 years. So what else has changed? Drivers are more distracted. Vehicles are wider, taller, heavier, faster, and quicker than ever before. We're using 5,000-pound vehicles to transport a single person across town, but our street size has not changed. The width of the average car in 1998 was about 5.5 feet. In 2018, the average car width is nearing 6.5 feet. Due to this increasing size of vehicles, we have entered an era where our streets no longer function as two-way with parking on one side. For example, in Milton, if a car is parked on Chestnut Street or Federal Street, opposing traffic must take turns to proceed around it. Now, someone told me this is good because it controls vehicle speed. But basically, it creates a one-way street that blocks traffic into an unpredictable pattern and completely obstructs bicycle traffic. Once upon a time, you could see a pedestrian when you were further back in a line of cars. Once upon a time, all the trucks fit into standard parking spaces. Once upon a time, all the motor vehicles were smaller. And once upon a time, kids were not invisible to the driver. So my answer to that question, when did crossing the street become such a chore, is that it has been demonstrably getting harder to cross the street every year for decades. So what do we do about this? We have a greater volume of larger vehicles and more distraction and more people. Traffic calming. Traffic calming is the combination of mainly physical measures that reduce the negative effects of motor vehicle use. It alters driver behavior and improves conditions for non-motorized street users. Please also keep in mind that development is happening all around us in Sussex County, and with that will come even more motor vehicle trips. If we recreate the traffic infrastructure to elevate alternative modes of transportation now, like walking, cycling, and public transit, we would reduce the number of motor vehicle trips and the demand for parking. So what does this look like? How would it work? How do we convince people to use those alternatives? Let's do an example of a bike trip from Heritage Creek, that's shown at the bottom of the map right here. And if you were to take a bicycle from this housing development all the way over here to the grocery store at the top of the map, that's only 2.5 miles. On a bike, that's about 16 minutes. Now, it's not particularly safe to do so right now. Speed is very high along here. There isn't any protection for bicyclists along this route. We'll do another example. From Wagaman's West Shore, which is another housing development on the edge of town, it's 1.7 miles. And on a bike, that's about 10 minutes to get to the grocery store. If we build the infrastructure that would allow our residents to safely make these trips by alternative means, they would do it. That's 20 to 30 minutes of passive exercise while running errands. It would reduce traffic noise throughout town. It would increase neighborhood interactions and build a greater sense of community. If we bring cycling traffic to local businesses, it would reduce the demand for parking. The rail trail is getting longer all the time and is becoming more interconnected throughout Sussex County. Connecting the town to it would be a boon for our local businesses. Now, maybe you're thinking, how would I even carry groceries home on a bike? That's ridiculous. Well, these tools already exist. Now, most of these people you may notice are not wearing helmets. Do you know why? It's because they are in places with protected bicycle lanes, with safety-conscious infrastructure that takes everyone into account and prioritizes the safety of those who cannot drive a motor vehicle. Now, I've talked about bikes. Now let's talk about prioritizing pedestrians. Right now, the amount of space allotted to pedestrians has been reduced. Sidewalks have been partially blocked by utility poles and fire hydrants, and there are broken footpaths throughout town. I've spent years pushing a stroller around this town, and I can only imagine the difficulties someone using a wheelchair would have getting around. When we reduce our pedestrian spaces, we are excluding our neighbors. Have you ever been scared by one of these little green dudes? That's because you were driving too fast. We've all seen these other signs around town. Drive like your kids live here. These are the everyman's attempt at traffic calming. Some Miltonians have tried to solve speeding concerns on their own by installing their own signage. This sign has been on Chestnut Street for years. Our own fire chief said in one of our traffic meetings that a frustrated Miltonian got out in the road in front of his truck to tell him to slow down because speeding is an ongoing problem and people are just sick of it. It is affecting their quality of life. 206 households took the time to fill out our traffic survey. That is significant, and we need to take this seriously. So, traffic calming recommendations. We've divided the report recommendations into two parts. Recommendations part 1 starts on page 47 of the report, and these are our 6 high priority categories identified from the survey with their subsequent shortlisted items that were further identified on the walk audits. I'm going to get into more detail on each of these. So, number 1 is speed reduction. I'm pleased that since this presentation was given on August 16th, the Milton Town Council has added the purchase of 8 permanently installed solar radar signs to the 2022 budget. The committee is also recommending a town-wide split speed limit and speed reduction. That would be 20 miles per hour for all traffic and 15 miles per hour for trucks and trailers. And more frequently placed speed limit signage to indicate to drivers that we expect them and require them to respect our town and the people that live here. Number 2 on our high priority list is truck traffic management. Our town needs new, larger, and more frequently placed signage directing trucks to the existing Alt Route 5. The committee is recommending that at the exit from Dogfish Head's truck delivery driveway, there should be a sign installed that indicates to trucks that all trucks must turn right, and that would get them to Alt Route 5. At Federal and Mulberry Street, which is this intersection pictured down on the bottom right, there is a nearly impossible right turn for trucks from Federal Street onto Mulberry Street. There's not enough space for the trucks to turn, and when they do attempt this, they have to use all the lanes to attempt this very, very sharp turn. Our third high priority item is pedestrian safety and access. The Milton Post Office is only easily accessible to motor vehicles. Walkers must either walk along a busy Route 16 or through a parking lot that does not even have pedestrian access to the businesses in that shopping center. And then they have to go up a grassy incline if they are able. The committee is recommending raised crosswalks on Mulberry Street near the boat ramp, on Mulberry Street at Governor's Walk, and on Federal Street on the inbound side of the rail trail. Our next recommendation is for differentiated crosswalks. Those are the kind that they're made of pavers or colored asphalt. These are more of an improvement for drivers as they make pedestrians more visible by making the presence of pedestrians a more expected part of an intersection. The committee is recommending these differentiated crosswalks at the following locations: the intersection of Mulberry Street and Federal Street, the intersection of Chestnut and Wharton Atlantic, the intersection of Federal Street and Union Street, and on Union Street at King's Ice Cream Shop. We are also recommending that crosswalk maintenance be established on an ongoing rotating schedule for more frequent crosswalk inspection, maintenance, and upgrades. Our fourth high priority category is signage. Magnolia Street parking lot is a one-way parking lot but lacks sufficient signage to indicate that. The committee recommends installing enter only and exit only signage on posts along with directional arrows painted on the ground. We're also recommending that we install in-street pedestrian crossing signage. We have a couple of these around town. It's a proven traffic calming device, and the committee is recommending placement of these on 50% of our town's crosswalks. Our fifth high priority category is intersection improvements. I'll get more into the specifics on this in just a moment, but these 3 intersections were the most frequently called out by our survey respondents. Number 6, and our final high priority category, is a feasibility study to study traffic patterns, multimodal accessibility, and town beautification. The committee's recommendation is that the town apply for grants to fund a feasibility study of investigating the effects of converting Mulberry Street, Union Street, Federal Street, Chestnut Street, and a portion of Lavinia Street to one-way. This would allow the installation of protected bicycle infrastructure to connect neighborhoods and businesses. It would also include studying the feasibility of placing all of our utilities underground to improve pedestrian access and add to town beautification, along with adding to the amount and type of parking available. So recommendations part 2 begins on page 59. This is a comprehensive list of issues and corresponding recommendations discovered during walk audits. There's a map at the beginning of each zone in the advisory report, so you can be more familiar with the areas we're talking about for each zone. So level of specificity. Just how seriously has the committee taken their task? I'm going to show you 2 examples of the time and thought and research the committee has put into our recommendations. We've discussed in our meetings and on walk audits at great length the different scenarios that occur regularly in town. We've identified existing engineered solutions that could be applied to address the conditions we have on the ground in Milton. The intersection of Chestnut Street and Wharton Atlantic. This was the 3rd most commented item from our survey. Now let me point out that DelDOT has approved this intersection to be converted to a 4-way stop. Let me repeat that. DelDOT has approved this intersection to be converted to a 4-way stop. I'm going to read some comments that we received from our survey. These comments are located on page 129, and here they are. The intersection of Wharton, Atlantic, and Chestnut should have a 4-way stop. A 4-way stop at Chestnut and Atlantic would slow down some of the speeders. Crosswalks and stop signs at Atlantic and Chestnut. Wharton and Chestnut, crosswalks and a 4-way stop. Crosswalks and stop signs at Chestnut and Wharton. Stop signs and crosswalks on Chestnut Street. Crosswalks needed. Intersection of Wharton and Chestnut. Chestnut and Atlantic needs a 4-way. Atlantic and Chestnut, people assume it's a 4-way, have almost been hit several times. Perhaps a 4-way stop at Atlantic and Chestnut Street as well. It's difficult to see left with buildings in the way when leaving town. A 4-way stop at the corner of Chestnut and Atlantic would be safer. A 4-way stop designation at Chestnut and Atlantic would be a big improvement in the interest of vehicular and pedestrian safety. Now, that's only the first 13 comments. We have 34 comments, basically all the same thing, calling out this intersection because it is a dysfunctional intersection for all users. There are 2 stop signs where there should be 4. There are long crossing distances for pedestrians, and there are no crosswalks. It's hard to describe the traffic interactions that happen here in just words, so I made a little animation. Pretend you're in this blue car on Wharton Street. You're approaching the stop sign. I live here and I know what's going on at this intersection. I know vehicles on Chestnut are going fast and they don't need to stop. And that's what I need to look out for. Shortly after, yellow car comes in. I'm a visitor and I think this is a 4-way stop because it looks like one. I have to wait for the blue car, then it's my turn. That's weird. The stop sign is planted in the street and it's all bent. Just go already, blue car. Blue car's waiting on red car. I live here and I know it's my turn to turn left. So I'll just speed up to prevent anyone from taking my turn. Now, what did they ignore? There's a bike who has the right to go before them. What else did they miss? There have been pedestrians standing on that corner the whole time. I live here and I know these drivers are not looking at me. It's not safe to cross here until I make eye contact with the drivers. Yet, as a pedestrian, I have the legal right of way. This happens every day. The committee has made recommendations for this intersection, and I've drawn a mock-up on page 54. Here's what that looks like. Making this intersection a 4-way stop will remove the question of whose turn it is. Differentiated materials like pavers for the crosswalks will elevate the importance of pedestrians at the crosswalks. Curb extensions with bulb outs, as shown in the bottom right image, will shorten the crossing distance for pedestrians. Pedestrians will be out of the driver's way faster. And if I didn't mention it before, DelDOT has approved this intersection to be converted to a four-way stop. The second example is Federal Street and Union Front Street. This is a dysfunctional intersection for all users. There are two stop signs. There's a yield sign to go straight. There's a slip lane, which is designed for speed. And who has ever even heard of a left turn having the right of way? Now, I didn't make an animation for this. It's too complicated. There's so much happening at this intersection that doesn't make sense. The committee's recommendation is to convert this to a four-way stop intersection. Add stop signs at each entry point of the intersection. Add a stop bar at each stop sign. Install differentiated paver crosswalks. Convert the existing red light emergency signal to a flashing red in all directions, because there are times that delivery trucks may block the view of a stop sign. Solid red lights can be utilized by the fire department when an emergency response is required. Remove the slip lane and install a protected bicycle parking lot. This would remove a dysfunctional intersection from the town center and addresses concerns related to speed and problematic crosswalks in this area. It would clear confusion resulting from an unclear and non-standard right-of-way to improve safety for all users. The committee is recommending existing engineered solutions to these very easily identified challenges. Engineered solutions change over time. Things change with new technology. Many in Milton have a home in the historic district. Think about your home and how you can see the changes that have happened over its life. Many historic homes here started as like a room with a sleeping loft above it. Then someone decided to add on. Maybe the next owner built an entirely new home on the front of that existing structure. Indoor plumbing was added, electricity was added, insulation methods have changed, roofing and siding materials are vastly superior now. My point is that it's okay to change things that are out of date. Our transportation infrastructure is out of date. It no longer functions as well as it has in the past, and it's okay to change it to improve it. Thank you. If you have comments on the report, you can email them to me or to the town manager, Christy Rogers, or to the mayor and town council. All of our email addresses are on the website. And thank you for watching. Bye.